Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of 30NSG. This next topic we're going to talk about is from Windows Central. It says, our business relies on selling games, and we didn't sell enough games. Ascendant Studios CEO talks about Immortals of Aveum's launch, layoffs, future plans, and Xbox Game Pass. If you like what we do here, we do these Monday through Thursday from 10 o'clock in the morning till noon Eastern. Make sure you hit that like button down below, and let's get to it. So, quote, he says, I'd never seen a year like this. So says Brett Robbins, CEO of Ascendant Studios, relatively new development team responsible for launching Immortals of Aveum earlier this year. Now, the game features unique magic-based first-person combat and noted in the Immortals of Aveum review, while he wasn't perfect, there was a lot to like with the colorful spell-casting systems right out of the gate. Immortals of Aveum has struggled in sales, with the studio laying off almost half of its staff weeks after the game launch. Now, as the team launches an update, and free trial of Immortals of Aveum, it had a chance to talk to Robbins regarding the game's launch and layoffs and his thoughts of subscription service like Xbox Game Pass and more. He says, why didn't Immortals of Aveum find initial success? While it was hardly the only possible cause, I asked Robbins a packed release schedule in 2023 contribute to Immortals of Aveum struggling to find an audience. He said 100%, he says. We weren't not in the position where we could delay or push out the launch window. You set those windows quite a bit ahead of time because you're spending the market dollars and you have commitments to particular dates. Now, I don't think because it was a packed schedule, right, that's why it didn't sell well. There's other games out there that were about as popular as this that they did sell well, okay? But at the same time, you look at games like Final Fantasy 16 didn't sell very well, right? It sold 3.3 million copies. It's not very good, okay, for a Final Fantasy game. Now, Robbins adds that the team already knew his chosen release window would be a crowd as Immortals of Aveum was launching around the same time as Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, with Starfield following just shortly after. On top of that, Robbins said that one of the anticipated of Baldur's Gate 3 blowing up right before Immortals of Aveum's launch. Stop. Stop right now, okay? Before you make yourself a fool, okay? People blame things, right? Be like, oh yeah, this game would have been a huge success, but we just made a bad choice. Rubicon came out, Starfield came out, Baldur's Gate 3 came out. That's why our game wasn't successful. No, that's not why your game wasn't successful. But I'll continue. He says, quote, I've never seen a year like this, he says, adding, it was always hard to break through the noise when you're a new IP or a studio people haven't heard of before. Trying to create awareness of is really, really difficult, and it's always hard for a new IP, and this year made it 10 times harder. Regarding the studio's layoffs, when I asked Robbins about the company's layoffs and if there was any of the possibility of avoiding it, he doesn't try to sugarcoat the situation. He says, quote, the layoff really sucked. There's no two ways around it, he says. We're not a big corporation. A business relies on selling games. No way. No way. A business that relies about selling games. And we didn't sell enough games. And that the force that Mian makes the decision, which really is unfortunate. These are people I work closely with, people that have put the heart and soul into a game. You never, ever want to do that. What? Can I ask chat and people in YouTube, in YouTube watching this after the fact, what changed? What changed, okay, from the 1980s through the 90s, through the early 2000s to now in the 2020s? Make a game, sell a game. What happened? It's the same thing. Make a game, sell a game. The reason there's microtransactions and whatnot in games is because they want to make more money than they would have made if they just sold a game. Make a good game, the game will sell. Okay? Make a shitty game, and your game will not sell. Now, I'm not saying Immortals of Aveum was a shitty game, but what I'm saying is you're going to have to market yourself, and maybe you should have brought your expectations in line and didn't think that you were going to be the next Call of Duty, and maybe you only could have had to sell maybe 1 million copies. I don't know what they sold. They're not forward with that, I don't think. Okay. Robbins adds that he's happy with some of them and have already found new jobs, and the Ascendant continues to grow, and we hope to work with many of them again. He says the relaunch with the update. Okay, Robbins says that the team wanted to keep supporting Immortals of Aveum, improving things and fixing bugs. That's the real reason right there. Studio launched the free trial on November 17th, allowing curious newcomers to try a new first couple of missions and carry the progress forward into the full experience. This comes alongside the update, which includes a new difficulty, new game plus, some additional endgame content, and a number of bug fixes. Robbins notes that some of these features and things and the team wanted it in the original launch, but development timelines meant that they had to wait until this update. And I think this is another problem with the industry. Okay, they're making a game. They sent out a release date, and this is where corporate and developers need to talk, because the marketing team fucks it up for everybody. Okay, and I mean this. Okay. The corporate entity of the company and the bigwigs and the guys in the suits that go, we know gaming, okay? They come out and they say, well, this game needs to be out by this time, okay? This is what our timeline is. And the developers are like, we can't do it because it's not going to get done. So they release a game, broke, buggy, unfinished, okay? And then they have to fix it after the time. And it says right here, they didn't have the development time because the marketing already marketed the game before the game was ready. Imagine in a world where you make a game and you sell a game, and once you're along the lines of almost done with the game, then you market the game because it's almost done. And then when you market the game, then you sell the game, and then it's not broke, buggy, unfinished, and doesn't need to be patched after the fact, because first impressions are everything, at least to me anyway. I don't know about you guys. Okay, so building a game in Unreal Engine 5 and working with EA. While dozens of major games in development using Unreal Engine 5, Epic Games' latest software, Precision of a Few, have actually been released using the technology. Immortals of Aveum was one of the first leveraging features and pushed image quality and effects while making heavy use of the Unreal Engine 5 restructure. Okay, I asked Robbins and believes that the benefit of hindsight in using the technology was the right call. Now, it certainly was for us. We're not a huge studio for AAA, and we're pretty modest size, he says. Unreal 5 lets us create a game that looked and played competitively to any other out there. I'll cut back to that. That was a huge advantage for us, and it's really powerful, and their features are pretty incredible, like Nanite and Lumen, okay, allow to really rapid iteration things to make development more effective or efficient. Now, what he's saying there is that basically it's a first go with the studio, and they made a AAA game, and it made them compete and have advantages to compete with the other games, okay? It says, looked and played competitively to any out there. So it looked, right? That's the big word. The game that looked and played competitively to any game out there. But did it, though, right? If it's just faking it to make it, okay, then it really didn't compete with the games that are out there using this. And this is my problem that I talked about months ago. I said with the Unreal Engine 5, all these games, they think because it's pretty graphics that all of a sudden that's what makes a good game. That's not what makes a good game. This is almost like, this is going to sound bad, but the girls that think they're super pretty because they put all this makeup on, but really they're just not good people. They might look awesome on the outside, but deep down inside, they're not good people. Okay, and I guess men do the same thing, but you know what I'm talking about, right? With video games, you make them pretty on the outside because of the Unreal Engine 5 and it looks good, but the game itself doesn't feel good. Deep down inside, it's not really competitive with the other games out there. Now, Robbins notes that there's still challenges due to the early nature of the engine's launch, and that we were certainly laying the tracks as the train was rolling, with the studio consulting Epic engineers in order to get the best possible results. I hear a lot of excuses why this game didn't succeed. I hear a lot of excuses why this game didn't succeed. Looking back on it, I didn't think there was any sort of that we could have shipped Immortals without being on the Unreal Engine 5, he says. As part of the EA's program, Ascendant Studios owned its Immortals of Aveum publisher Electronic Arts wasn't involved in the creative side, instead of handling the game's marketing and publishing. Oh, so EA is the one that ruined it. Good job, EA. Quote, there was a lot of conversation with them around the certain features and thought the game would need the accessibility features they thought the community wanted. Right? Robbins said, noting the improvements were made in those areas as a result of EA's feedback, but that the publisher didn't have any say in creative decisions. Now, quote, continuing, he says, there were good partners in terms of being passionate about the game and supportive of the game, and I was happy with the relationship. Now, he says, Immortals of Aveum coming to Xbox Game Pass. He asked Robbins if Immortals of Aveum would be coming to a subscription service like Xbox Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, and if launching it on one of those or both the services would help Immortals of Aveum launch. He says, certainly, those services give you a wider funnel. He says, more people might engage with the game. That's always good, right? He adds that, yes, we're talking to them about getting the game on both of those services, and we don't have a date yet. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen, though. In response to whether or not the launching on these services would help the game at launch, he extremely candid. To be honest, I don't know, he says. I don't know if it would have been better or worse, noting that the teams relied on EA to handle a lot of those calls, looking back on those future. Well, I want to chime in a little bit with the Game Pass thing. I think a game like this, trying to break into the AAA market with a game that is your first, small studio, you're making a AAA game amongst a bunch of other games. I talked about this with Suicide Squad the other day when that document leaked in the lawsuit, or the trial with Activision Blizzard, and we saw some of the day and date games that Xbox was paying for, and we see like games like Suicide Squad was on that list for $250 million. Okay, that $250 million represents about 3.5 million copies sold for that game. So if a game like this, I don't want to say it would take $250 million, but if it took $100 million, okay, that's about 1.2, 1.5 million copies sold, which is probably more than they would have sold on their own, right? But that's already in the pipeline, right? You're still selling it for PlayStation, you're still selling it for PC, okay? So if PlayStation paid them and then Xbox paid them to get on that service, I think it would have been better for this company because they wouldn't have laid off anybody, because they would have got the money up front, okay, from Xbox, from PlayStation. It would have been on both those services, and it would survive because they would have made their money back, because technically, if they paid $100 million, let's say, for on both sides, I'm being very generous here, they would have sold about 3 million copies. And for a game like this, as long as their budget wasn't astronomical like a Last of Us 2 with 200 million plus, they would have made their money back. But that's just, that's just me. Looking back at the future, he says, ask Robbins if we can go back and tell himself something the development of the game first began, what would it be? He's an understanding just how important the team's technology is to what they're trying to make. You can make the best ideas in the world, but if you don't have the people that can create those ideas, then you don't have a tech platform for even to work. It doesn't matter, he says. I got every fortunate of a hiring, of eventually ending up being the Ascendant of the leadership group of everything is fantastic, while noting that he had also previous ways of working on the big teams with big games, established franchises like Call of Duty. He has the experience came with a lot of assumptions you make about things that you should just know or just work. He continues to saying, when you're working on a brand new game with a brand new team, with a brand new technology, you can't assume anything. I don't think you can assume anything with an old team, with old technology, right? You have to build everything from the ground up. I would tell myself to laser focus more on the tech, on the key hires, right teams, and adding to the team moved very fast, efficiently, but there's always ways for rooms for improvement. When I asked the studio if there was a future plans he can share, he carefully not to reveal too much, but he does confirm that Ascendant Studios is working on something right now. He says the Ascendant is working on a new project that I'm very excited about, he says, and there's lots of possibilities, but what they may not be doing in the future. So I think this company, as being a brand new company, I think he kind of bit off more than he could chew, personally, right? I think that this company, Ascendant Studios, just try to make something because he worked on Call of Duty. I think it was a good go, right? I do. I think visually the game looks good, but again, I think it's shallow. I think a lot of these games that come out with Unreal Engine 5, a lot of people pick it up because it looks good, but it's actually not a good game. Now, I haven't played Immortals of Aveum, okay? So I can't tell you if it was actually a good game or not personally. I do know what it ranked and what people said, and they said it was a fun game and whatnot, but to compete against other things, this is the same thing that Battlefront did with Halo. I forget who it was. Was it Halo that complained Battlefront that it didn't sell well, or was it Battlefront that complained that Halo came out and it didn't sell well? One of them did that, okay? Now, obviously, you know when things are coming out. You can delay it if you really wanted to. But it sounds like there's a lot more problems here with this game than just coming out the same time as Baldur's Gate 3 or Starfield or any of these other things. These are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments section down below. Please make sure you share, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.